Hello everyone, it's Chloe and I haven't uploaded in the longest time purely just because I've just started uni and lockdown was happened and it's still happening and it's just been crazy times. That's all I can really say. That's all I can really excuse. I wanted to make this video for so long and I've had so many drafts and remakes of this video, but similar to my other kind of honesty video, I kind of wanted to be able to sit down and just tell it straight and just basically not edit anything out, just like I just said, just sit here and explain everything. So this is probably going to be quite a long video and quite a serious one, so if you're not really wanting to watch a serious video or whatever, just don't watch this one, and I'm gonna try my best to start creating content soon. But this is Poppy, my daughter's story. So I know I've made a separate video about kind of the situation that happened to me and the problem I was stuck in for a couple of years and the horrible experiences that I went through due to that, but I really wanted to dive into Poppy's story specifically, give you more information on that, just because I know that the awareness about the type of pregnancy loss that I had is so low, and also teen miscarriage, teen pregnancy loss is even less talked about than pregnancy loss in general, and I think it's really important just to get my story out there, for myself, to get it off my chest, I guess, for my daughter and for anyone else who might be struggling and wants to watch this. So obviously Poppy is not something I keep a secret or I have ever kept a secret, just because she's so important to me and nobody in this world deserves to be kept a secret. So just some background overview, if you haven't seen my previous video, it will be linked down below if you want a little bit of context on the situation. I'm not going to go into a great load of detail just because it brings a lot of stuff back for me, and there's a video that I've already done that was really hard, and this video is going to be hard enough as it is, so I will link that down below, but that will give you a little bit of context. But for basically, long story short, since 2018 I was being sexually abused by a 50-year-old man who happened to be my best friend's stepdad. I tell this full story in the video that's linked down below, so I'm not going to go into a great amount of detail, but I was sexually abused, psychologically, verbally, physically, everything. It wasn't a nice situation to be in, and yeah, that's all I'm really going to say about that situation because I've already made a video about it, and this is more just focusing on Poppy. But this sexual relationship, as some may call it, did end up in me falling pregnant. On the 1st of May 2019, I took a pregnancy test on a whim. I didn't really track my periods or anything. I just took the test. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. I took the test and it came up positive, and there was a ridiculous mix of emotions in my head. So before I go more into that, I think what's really important to say, and what shocks a lot of people, I was sexually abused, but Poppy was not an accident. Me and my abuser were trying for a baby, which to a lot of people is like, what the hell? Looking back now on the rational mind I have, I'm so confused by what I was thinking and what I was allowing, but there was a lot of pressure put on me, a lot of if you don't do this, this will happen, and when my abuser suggested the idea to me, I almost didn't want to say no, And so then unprotected sex was happening, and it wasn't consensual, but I also didn't say no. So it's a very hard situation to explain, and when you're in that situation and you feel so pressured and so confused, and I was so young as well, I was 17 years old. I was 16 when we started trying to conceive. So obviously when you're 16 years old, like, I'm only 2 years older now, like I'm only 18 now, but still looking back, like still now, like I'm not fully mature or whatever, but like looking back I was even younger, even less mature, and it's just not, it's just not a situation that you want to be put in. And when you're that young, you can get easily influenced to do a lot of things, and he was a very controlling and influential man. So there was a lot of trying happening before this, and then I did fall pregnant. And the thing is, I wasn't getting pregnant. I think we were trying for about 6 months at least. January, February, March, April, May. So 8 months, and nothing was happening. And I presumed, to me, that was because he was an older man, and obviously when you get older, your sperm count goes down, that kind of thing. And so I just presumed it wasn't going to happen, which made me almost feel a little bit better about it. So when I did get that positive test result, I was almost a bit shocked and taken back. At first, I did not know what to do. I felt sick when I saw the result. And there was all these emotions. There was this fear. There was, how am I going to tell my parents? Because at the time, I really wasn't getting on with my parents. Which I can go into again a little bit later. But there was just so much information. But then there was also like this underlying excitement, because I don't know. I was like, oh my God, I'm having a baby. That's so exciting. But equally I was like, oh my God, I'm 17 years old. And there was just so much going through my head. That day was so crazy. So I told my abuser, and he said, yeah, I'm so happy, we're gonna have a family, is what he said to me on the phone. And then later that day I did see him, and he seemed to be not very happy at me about it, and that was really hard for me, and I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. And he was like, don't get rid of it though, we need to have it, we're gonna have a family. And it was just very confusing for me, being 17, just finding that out myself, and then being told what to do, and then I also told my best friend Erin, who was the biggest support to me. She was the only person that knew for the longest time. She knew the day I took the test, she knew from then on, and I couldn't trust anyone else in the world more with that secret. Like, she was so secretive, and well, not secretive, but she was so accepting of that, and she was really excited as well with me, and she was very supportive, and we were both really excited, to be honest. Like, after a couple of days and the shock settled in, I instantly knew I was going to keep the baby, and I was like, I'm so excited. And I know that might sound really weird, because I was so young and I wasn't in the situation to have a child, but it was just something inside me that was like, I don't know, it is exciting no matter the age you are. Once you get over the fear and you just think, oh my God, it's a baby. And I've always wanted kids, maybe not like so early on, but I was like, that this is going to happen and I'm going to do this. And I decided to be excited about it rather than stress about it. So I decided I wanted to keep the baby. I went to the doctors, and at the very beginning of my pregnancy, I had an unexpected bleed. So it wasn't a lot, but it was like I was on a lighter version of my period, but obviously I was pregnant, and they were like, oh gosh, this was when I was about 5 weeks pregnant, or 6 weeks. So I went to the hospital. They gave me a scan, but it was too early to see anything. So then I had to go back I think it was 10 days later. I was meant to be 14, but they did like a 10 just because I was bleeding. My bleeding stopped. They checked the baby out, and the baby was absolutely fine, happy, healthy, and I was so happy and relieved by that. And this is my first ever scan that I had, and there she is, just there, absolutely tiny, which is just crazy. That was on January, February, March, April, May, June. The 6th of June 2019 was my first ever scan that was visible with Poppy, which is really exciting. I've got in this really nice, the batteries have run out, but this frame like lights up around the edge. It's really pretty, and it's really nice and cozy as well, and makes me really happy because I have it like on my windowsill with my cozy stuff, and it like just lights her up, and it's just really nice, really nice for me. Anyway, so everything in my pregnancy was going fine. I had a lot of anxiety because obviously I was being put under a lot of pressure by my abuser, and then I couldn't tell my parents. I didn't know what to do about that. I couldn't tell anyone really, but I just couldn't bring myself to tell my parents because it's really hard. It's not that I don't have I didn't have the best relationship with my parents. I am building it back up now, and it's a lot better than it was. But I'll get into that later. But I especially could never tell my dad, especially just because of the relationship. We didn't have the right relationship, and I didn't feel like I was in a position to tell any of my family because of my abuser, who was telling me, oh, you can't tell anyone this, you can't tell anyone that, and blah blah blah. So then he started taking me to house viewings and things, and we were going to move in together. I don't know how that would have even worked, but it was a thing. As I say, you know, I know a lot of this sounds crazy, but I was so young and so manipulated, and so yeah, it was just really hard. Gosh, I've got to be really honest about it though. Like, I can't just sit here and go, oh, he made me do this, he made me do that, because I mean, technically he did, but I guess even though I was being manipulated, I did some things willingly. So I've just got to be honest about it, and if people judge me for my honesty, then they judge me for my honesty. But, you know, I just want to tell the full story, just to give myself and Poppy some justice, you know. Anyway, so I'm trying to think like what the next thing in line was that happened. I just kind of went on with my pregnancy. I didn't get that much of a bump. I got a small bump, but obviously I was hiding it and everything. Yeah, and everything was fine. I had trouble getting my 12-week scan. I had to ring them so many times and they weren't answering, and the NHS was a load of crap for me, which was so frustrating. So I finally had my 12-week scan at 16 weeks, which was so annoying. And the week before that, I had started, it wasn't blood, but it was like brown, but that's like old blood, and there was a lot of watery discharge I was getting. And I rang them up and I was like, look, I'm worried about this, I don't know why I'm getting so much discharge. They said it should be normal, but we'll book you in for this scan. So it's a week later, I'm just vibing along with the discharge, and it starts to get a bit more, so I start to get a little bit worried, and they're scanning and they tell me that Poppy is a girl, which was so exciting for me, because I would have been happy either way of the gender, but I've always wanted a little girl. And honestly, they said it's a girl, and I was like, oh my god, no way. I could not believe it. I would have been happy either way, but like when she said it's a girl, I literally said no way, really, because I've always wanted a girl. And like, I don't know, but it was so exciting that I got to find that out. And then unfortunately she said, you've got low waters, which, not so low that she can't breathe, but low so her lungs will struggle to develop. And then obviously I was talking to them about my discharge, and they said, okay, we're just going to send you upstairs for a little test. We're going to have to do a swab to test if it is waters that are coming out. So where the baby, if you don't know, the baby is in 2 sacs and surrounded by water, which they use to, well, it's not water, it's amniotic fluid, but they use it to like practice breathing with their lungs and stuff like that, and it just helps them move around and stuff like that. So I was so scared at this point, because I was like, my gosh, no one knows about this, and this, like, I might be leaking fluids, and this was only at 16 weeks, and obviously babies are meant to be carried to 40 weeks, so this was like like I didn't really know what to do, and they tested it, and unfortunately it did come back as it was amniotic fluid that had come out as discharge. So that meant that there was a hole in the sac that the baby's in, and technically my waters had started to break at 16 weeks, and obviously your waters aren't meant to start to break until like 38, 40 to 42 weeks. So babies can't survive really before about 26 to 28 without birth defects. 24 at a very push, but that'd be very premature, very take a long time in the hospital with them. So I then got classed as a high-risk pregnancy, and I was diagnosed with PPROM. So PPROM is preterm premature rupture of membranes, and basically it's a condition where, for whatever reason, your waters break before the right time, basically before, I think PPROM is before 20 weeks, I could be wrong, don't hold me to that, I think, or it might be before 22, then after 22 it's just classed as PROM, but don't hold me to that because I'm not 100% sure. So, by the way, this was the scan I got of her on this day. So I've only got 2 scans, that's why I've got them both framed. I can never work out, though, properly how she is, because I remember them specifically saying that she had her head buried down, and the way I look at it, unless they've done it upside down, the way I look at it seems like her head's upwards, but maybe she just turned or something. I look at it as if it's that bit, but I'm not sure. I've got to be honest. But I do love that scan as well. It's really cute and pretty. But like, she wasn't big enough for you to properly make out her features anyway. So after that, they said you need to rest as much as you can, and there's not really a cure or anything anyone can do. You just have to ride it out and really, really try. And, you know, you have to just really try to keep... You just got to ride out and basically see what happens. So, yeah. That was such a scary day for me, because it just meant that every day I could have just gone into labour like that. And it was so scary because I loved Poppy with all of my heart. Like, I can't even tell you. You think you're in love or whatever, like, and there's no doubt about that, but you won't ever feel the same love that you will for a child. Like, even when they're not even born, I can't explain the unconditional love, and it's so different and it's so beautiful. And, you know, I will never feel that love for anyone or anything in my life again. It's a different type of love, honestly. So yeah, so she... So all seemed to be going okay. I was trying so hard to stay hydrated and all that jazz. Not that it really helps, but just it helps your body anyway. I was praying every night that she'd be okay. And then I think it was the Monday after, so it was like a week after that, they wanted me to come in for like weekly scans every Monday to check her fluids. They checked the fluids, and unfortunately they hadn't gone up, they were still leaking out, but they hadn't gone down either. So they were at the same level, which isn't great, but it's better than them going down. So that kind of gave me a little bit of hope. I had a load of bloods taken that day, and then I was due to have another scan the next week. So, on Saturday the 18th, no, hang on, because it was the morning, so she would have been Monday. Yeah. On Saturday the 17th of August 2019, I woke up And at this point I wasn't living with my parents. I had left my parents' home because of a lot of things. There was a lot of arguments, a lot of drama, which is luckily getting sorted now. Well, is pretty much sorted now, and I'm rebuilding my relationships and that sort of thing. But that's not really that relevant to this situation. So I was in a Airbnb place, and I was staying there with my abuser at the time, and he had gone to work, so I was all by myself. I woke up, I went to the toilet, and the biggest gush of blood, I had the biggest gush of blood ever, and I was like, no, because I can't even explain to you the fear that went through my body. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I called the emergency triage number straight away, and they were like, you need to come in right now. I went straight in, I had an emergency scan, and they were expecting my cervix to be dilated and I was going into labour. However, there was no sign of labour or anything. I had no temperature, the cervix hadn't been dilated, and Poppy was still alive, which I was so scared that she wasn't going to be. And when that woman said the words, she's okay, I burst into tears because I was so scared for her. So scared that I was going to lose her in that moment. So I was then in hospital for a couple more hours. I was then discharged. I went back and I was just so scared. And I was bleeding quite a lot, quite heavily. And obviously you're not supposed to bleed when you're pregnant. And I was getting quite a lot of blood clots, which is, this might be a bit TMI, so you might have to skip past this bit, but it might be a bit graphic, but just hear me out, or skip past this bit if you don't want to hear. But I was getting a lot of blood clots, and I stood up and I thought I had a blood clot that was like a bit stuck. So I went to the toilet and I I thought the blood clot was going to come out. It didn't. So I went to feel, I know that sounds really gross, but there was a big blood clot there, you would feel. And I felt a foot, a tiny little foot, and I rang the triage people, went straight back in. They looked up and they were like, oh, we can't see anything, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm wrong. And then they like opened me sorry, and he kind of felt around and he was like, I'm so sorry, there's nothing we can do. She's going to be born within the next couple of days and she won't survive because she's so young. And that moment in my life was, I've got no words for it, because it was just, everything just came crashing down. And I was in such a bad position at that point, because obviously I had my abuser on my back all the time and I was having a really hard time with that. I just moved out from my parents' house and I was homeless at the time, and for that to then pile on top, I literally have no words for how sad I was. Like, I just cried and I cried and I screamed and I cried and I said, please, please, I begged them there was something they could do, and they was like, we're so sorry, there's nothing we can do. So I was put into the labour ward and they suggested that I would get induced. I said at first, I kind of just want to ride it out because I still had the hope. So I slept on the Saturday night, I woke up on the Sunday. I had the scariest, saddest day because I knew she was still in there, she was still alive, but I was kind of avoiding the inevitable. I wanted to wait a couple of days until I was induced, but I was forced to induce by my abuser. Which is always something I toss and turn in my head. It's like, oh, would she have survived if, or would this, or if I wasn't induced, would this have happened, or anything. And I know she would have passed either way, but that is something that I beat myself up about every single day, and it's so hard because I shouldn't, because that's not my fault. No, it's my fault, but you know, it's something I think about every day and beat myself up about every single day. And it's so hard. And it's so hard not to blame yourself and not think, what could I have done differently that wouldn't have caused the peak harm to happen, when in reality this is something that just happens and that you have no control over it, and your body just does it. You know, there's nothing that anyone can do, and there's nothing that you could have done either. And it's so hard. It's so hard. Whew, okay, I'm trying to just stay positive, just tell the story, just to get the story out there, just because I just want to get my words out, you know. So I was induced on the 18th at about 10 p.m. I got to hear her last heartbeat, which I've actually got recorded on my phone, and it's very, very special. And then I was in labour for about 4 hours, and fun fact, I did labour on just one paracetamol. Not because I didn't want to take any other tablets, because they were like giving me a stronger one, but I was very bad at taking tablets at the time. I'm a lot better now because I have to take them every day, but at the time I just couldn't take tablets. And when you're giving birth, like when you're in labour, your stomach goes really bloated and hard, and it makes you feel sick, and oh my god, labour, it's horrible. But every time I tried to swallow water, it was just coming back up, or I just felt like I couldn't swallow it down, it would just come straight back up, so I couldn't swallow any more tablets. Gas and air really freaked me out, so I just didn't have it, which I know was kind of stupid, but yeah. And I didn't want, what's it called, the one that begins with M, well, I can't remember what it's called. I was going to say methane, it's not bloody methane. There was another one that's like a shot, I can't remember what it is, you tell me, I don't know. But I didn't want that either, because it was very strong, and I haven't had a lot of painkillers before, and I think it just would have, I wanted to remember the experience, because this is a very special experience. I didn't want to be so out of it that I couldn't properly remember it, if you know what I mean. So I just plodded along, and yeah. Then she was finally born at 47 minutes past midnight on the 19th of August. And gosh, at the time I'd just given birth, and they were like, do you want to hold her? And I was like, yes, I really do, but just give me a second. And I remember I just laid my head back for a second, and I woke up 2 hours later, and I was like, whoa. So I literally like passed out because that was so much for my body. And then when I woke up, I got to hold her, which was so nice. And she came out with her hand over her face like this, like she was going like sleeping, my little sleeping angel, and it was so cute and beautiful. And actually I can show you a picture of that, if you can see. I don't know, my lighting is a bit bad, but she's got her little hand over her face, which was really cute, to be honest. So yeah, that was really nice. And that evening I was almost I was just kind of at peace, because I just given birth and I was so out of it, but like I was just at peace, and I was just holding my little angel. And then obviously I went to sleep, and when I woke up is when the sadness really hit, because it was kind of waking up and like the realization. And I had a bath, and I don't know, I just kind of sat there and just stared at the wall and was like, oh my god, this time yesterday she was alive. And there was a lot of like comparing things in my head. I compared so many things, like, oh, this time a week ago she was alive, or this time 2 weeks ago she was okay, and stuff like that. And that was a big thing I had to get over, and that was a really hard thing for me. And then, sorry, it's so hard to talk about sometimes. So I held her and I took a couple of photos. This is one of the photos, with little cuddles of her. And then that evening they took her to go to the cottage. They called it the cottage, and that's where they go to like preserve their body before they get buried. And then a couple of days later we went back to see her to say our proper goodbyes, and that's where that other photo is from, where she's wrapped up in the blanket. So when she was first born, she was put in this tiny little woolen cot thing with this woolen pillow, and it's beautiful. And you can kind of gauge how small she was. She was too small for this, like that's how tiny she was. You know, because she was an 18-week-old baby, which she's tiny, you know. So I've got like her memory box here, which their hospital gave me, and they gave me some stuff in it, but after a couple of months I decorated it, and I drew some poppies, and I wrote her name. And I remember when I was in the hospital, when I held her for the last time, I sung her "You Are My Sunshine," so I wrote that on the box as well, because it's kind of something that's really special to me and her. And then I've got the candle from her funeral, which I haven't even touched. I've just let the candle wax like melt, and I've just left it like that. Then I've got a bib, so she's got a baby grow which is on her grave, and then a hat which she was buried with. And I remember that I was carrying around the hat everywhere because I had a really soft tag, and I love soft tags, and I was carrying around the hat everywhere as like a good luck thing, and like thinking about her, like while obviously I was struggling with her, and bad things were happening, like I was just diagnosed people, and I was taking the hat around like as a symbol of hope. So because I had that all that time, I decided to have her buried with it, and then I kept the bib with me, and then the baby grows on top of her grave. I've then got the little booklet from her funeral ceremony, which has like the prayers in and stuff, which I think is really beautiful. And then I've got her birth certificate. So it says Poppy Bayliss, 19th August 2019, time of birth 47 minutes past midnight at the Centre for Women's Health. And it says at the bottom, baby born sleeping before the 24th week of pregnancy, which is really nice. And then there's this little card which I actually haven't used yet, and it's got like little seeds in it, like flower seeds. I think it's forget-me-nots. Yeah, it's a forget-me-not seed, because they're that the hospital gave me, because then like you like forget-me-not so you don't forget your baby, do you know what I mean? So I haven't used these yet, so I'm going to, I think at some point, I think you plant stuff in the spring, if I'm pretty sure, or maybe they bloom in the spring, or I'll find out when I'm supposed to, and then I'm going to plant them like around her grave, because I think that will just look really nice. Just have some like wildflowers growing. And it says in here, the dreams we dream will find you and wrap you in our love, which is really nice and really sweet and cute, and I really find that really nice. This was a heart key ring, and then it had a little heart that she was buried with, that like only attaches to the key ring. Then I've got one of my favourite things ever, so I've got her hospital bracelet, which just says her name and that she's my baby and when she was born and stuff. And then I've also got my hospital bracelet. And then we've got some handprints and footprints of hers, which are beautiful, and I love these because it just reminds me of her, and it makes me feel really connected to her when I can see. And then here I had a little angel bracelet as well. And then I've got these other little hand and feet, which was a bit, the ones that have failed a little bit, so that's just got those extra ones. And then I've got this bracelet and this bracelet. I've got this random ribbon, but I don't know where it's from. I'll just pop it back in there for now. So I've got these two bracelets as well, and which Katie and Erin made me and her. So Poppy had like a tiny one of these that was tied onto her, I don't know if you saw in the photo, but it was tied onto her blanket when she was buried as well. And then my brother gave her a little golden teddy bear key ring thing as well, which was really nice, that she was buried with. And there's this little heart. She was buried with one of these, and then I've got one too to keep her close to my heart. So I keep that on the little bed thing, and that's everything I've got in her little memory box. It's very, very precious to me. And then the other thing that unfortunately I do not have anymore, as I dropped it, which I'm so upset about, but she had a teddy and I had the same one. And I could easily pick up another one, but obviously it's not going to quite have the same, like, it's not going to quite have the same effect, because she'd never, like, basically she cuddled hers while I cuddled mine, and then the last time I saw her we swapped, so she'd have the one while she was in her grave, she'd have the one that smiled at me and I'd have the one that smiled at her. And unfortunately I did drop it a matter of weeks ago somewhere outside my accommodation, and I've never found it since, which is really upsetting. But luckily she's still been buried with hers, so that's the most important thing. I just keep this up here. I don't look for it that often, but when I'm, oh, I'll just put it there for a second, I'll push it in a minute. But when I'm like sad or thinking about her, I just like to look through it sometimes, and it just makes me feel a bit better. So I've got a couple of pictures as well around my room, and then the last thing I've got is this. So this is something I bought quite recently from IKEA. And I bought, so basically she had one of these before, but it was like only from like Poundland or something, so it was all I could afford at the time. But I got another one from IKEA, so it's exactly the same as this, and there's one on her grave, which is what I put her little candles in. This one's just a lot more sturdy than the Poundland one she had, and the Poundland one she had was going like really rusty and stuff. So I got her this one, and I've got the same one, just so we can kind of like connect a little bit. And I recently redid her grave as well before I came up to Leeds, because I now live in Leeds, and she's all the way down in Devon, so she's like 5 or 6 hours away, so obviously I don't get to see her too often. But before I moved away I made sure to redo her grave because it was a bit of a mess, just because of the weather, and it's surprising how easily graves get messed up. So I put some like rainbow stones. I think they're meant to go like a fish tank or something, but I thought they would look really nice on her grave, so I put some like rainbow stones on there. My friend Annabelle's been going there, and she put some not Christmas, Halloween decorations down a couple of weeks ago as well for Halloween, and it's really nice. So I'm very supported by friends and the family and things, and I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, I guess that's Poppy's story. If you do have any questions that I haven't covered, please put them in the comments below. I was going to turn the comments off, but I think I really do want this video to be a subject of discussion, if you know what I mean, and I want people to be able to talk about it, so I am going to leave the comments on. I'm going to try my best. I will watch this video back, but I'm going to try my best not to edit any of it out unless I do like pause for a really long time while I'm thinking, just because then I just want you to get like the raw, honest kind of story. Yeah, so I hope that this video can give some people some clarity, and it's helped me so much with my grieving process just to be able to sit here and talk about it. And it's taken me a long time to be able to sit here and talk about it without absolutely breaking down, but I'm here and I'm talking about it, and I'm here to tell you that it's okay, and I'm here for anyone who wants to talk about things like this, and I've experienced it and I know how it feels. So do not hesitate to contact me. My Instagram DMs are always open, and the link to my profile's in the description. And feel free to comment on this video, but obviously if you want to have a private chat, just DM me on Instagram, okay? I love you all so much, and thank everyone for watching this video. It's a very special one to my heart, so if you did watch all this way through, I just want to thank you. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed Poppy's story, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!